20 minutes later, Karen sat in the back of a police cruiser, her wrists secured with zip-tie restraints that cut into her skin. Through the window, she watched Officer Rodriguez taking statements from a cluster of neighbors while EMTs bandaged Jim Patterson's forearm, a minor casualty from his failed attempt to grab the axe during her fourth swing. "You know this is going to cost you everything, right?" Jim called out as the officer helped him into an ambulance. "The legal fees alone will bankrupt you. And the tree, Jesus, Karen, that tree was over 100 years old. The city's going to hit you with fines that'll make your head spin." Karen said nothing. She'd managed 7 solid strikes before Jim and 2 other men had finally wrestled the axe away. 7 strikes that had carved a gash nearly 2 feet wide into the oak's trunk. Not enough to fell it, but definitely enough to kill it. The tree would linger for months, maybe even a year, but it was effectively dead. Mission accomplished. At the police station, Detective Sarah Chen, Margaret's sister, as it turned out, handled Karen's booking with professional detachment. Criminal mischief, destruction of public property, assault with a weapon, she recited, snapping photos of Karen's grass-stained sundress. The district attorney's office will probably add a few more charges once they review the video footage. Video footage? Half the neighborhood filmed you, Mrs. Middleton. It's already all over social media. #HoA is trending on TikTok. Karen's stomach dropped. In her focused fury, she hadn't considered the digital aftermath. Every swing of the axe, every word she'd spoken, captured in high definition and broadcast to millions of strangers. Her carefully maintained reputation, the reliable HOA member, the meticulous homeowner, the woman who hosted the annual charity bake sale, obliterated in 20 minutes of viral fame. The booking process felt like a fever dream. Fingerprints, mugshot, personal effects inventory. Karen's wedding ring disappeared into a manila envelope along with her car keys and the small silver cross necklace her mother had given her. Without these familiar anchors, she felt unmoored, like she was watching someone else's life implode. Her lawyer, David Martinez, arrived 3 hours later with a grim expression and a thick folder of preliminary documents. "Karen, what were you thinking? I've handled HOA disputes for 15 years, and I've never seen anything this self-destructive. The tree had to go, David. The tree was worth approximately $80,000. That's the city's preliminary estimate for replacement value, plus damages to the park, medical expenses for Mr. Patterson, and punitive fines that could reach 6 figures. We're looking at bankruptcy, Karen. Possibly prison time." Karen stared at the concrete wall of the holding cell. $80,000. Her entire savings account held maybe $12,000. The house, her beautiful, meticulously maintained house with the perfect lawn and the spotless gutters, would have to be sold. Everything she'd built since her divorce would vanish to pay for 20 minutes of satisfying destruction. "I need to make a phone call," she said quietly. David slid his phone through the bars. "Who are you calling?" Karen dialed a number she hadn't used in 2 years. It rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. "Mom." Karen's voice cracked slightly. "It's me. I think I might need to come home for a while." 6 weeks later, Karen sat in her childhood bedroom in Tucson, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the remnants of her Willowbrook life. The house had sold quickly. Motivated seller, below market price, cash deal with an investor who planned to flip it. After legal fees, restitution, and outstanding debts, she'd walked away with enough money for a used Honda Civic and first month's rent on a studio apartment. Her phone buzzed constantly with notifications. The #HOA Karen videos had spawned reaction videos, news interviews, and even a satirical song that had hit number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Late-night comedians made jokes about suburban domestic terrorism. A Netflix documentary crew had called 3 times asking for interviews. Karen ignored them all. She had bigger problems. The civil suit is going to trial. David had called to tell her that morning. Jim Patterson is claiming emotional distress, loss of consortium, and diminished property values for the entire neighborhood. He's asking for $2 million in damages. $2 million. Karen laughed until she cried, then cried until she laughed. The number was so absurd it had transcended real meaning. She might as well owe them the moon. Her mother, Helen, knocked on the bedroom door. "Dinner's ready, sweetheart." They ate in silence. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes, the same meal Helen had made every Wednesday for 30 years. Comfort food that no longer brought comfort. Finally, Helen set down her fork and studied her daughter with sharp blue eyes. "You want to tell me what this was really about?" Karen picked at her food. "The tree was dropping leaves on my lawn." "Bullshit." Karen looked up, startled. Her mother rarely swore. "I raised you, Karen Elizabeth. I know when you're lying. A woman doesn't destroy her entire life over fallen leaves. So what was it really about?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Karen felt something crack open in her chest, a fault line she'd been carefully concealing for years. "I was invisible," she whispered. 3 years of meetings, 3 years of being polite and reasonable and following all their stupid rules. 3 years of being patted on the head and dismissed. And that tree, that goddamn tree, was proof that nothing I wanted mattered. Nothing I said carried any weight. I could scream until my throat blowed, and they'd still just smile and tell me to be patient. Helen reached across the table and squeezed Karen's hand. "So you made them see you." "So I made them see me." "And now?" Karen pulled up the news article on her phone, the one that had been haunting her for days. The headline read, "Willowbrook HOA implements new resident advocacy program following tree incident." According to the article, the board had established new procedures for addressing resident complaints, hired an independent mediator, and created a formal appeals process. Change. Real, substantive change. It had taken her complete destruction to achieve it, but she'd actually won. "Now I figure out what comes next," Karen said. Her phone buzzed with a new notification. Another interview request, this one from a legal advocacy group that wanted to discuss HOA reform. Karen stared at the message, then at her reflection in the dark window. The perfectly coiffed suburban mom was gone, replaced by someone leaner, harder, with nothing left to lose. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Outside, thunder rumbled across the desert sky. A storm was coming, bringing the kind of rain that transformed everything in its path. Karen smiled and reached for her phone to return the call. After all, she was just getting started. Karen Middleton stood at the edge of Willowbrook Community Park, her manicured fingers wrapped around the worn hickory handle of her grandfather's splitting axe. The annual HOA picnic buzzed around her, children shrieking on the playground, fathers manning grills, mothers gossiping over potato salad. But all Karen could see was that tree. The ancient oak had been her nemesis for 3 years, ever since she'd moved into 1247 Maple Drive and discovered its massive branches dropped leaves directly onto her pristine lawn every fall. 3 years of filing complaints. 3 years of HOA meetings where board president Jim Patterson smiled condescendingly and explained that the tree was community property and added value to the neighborhood. Well, today community property was about to become community kindling. "Karen, what the hell are you doing?" Margaret Chen's voice cut through the afternoon chatter. The accountant from Birch Street had spotted her first, naturally. Margaret never missed anything. Karen hefted the axe higher, testing its weight. "What needs to be done, Margaret? What should have been done years ago?" A small crowd began to gather. Karen felt their eyes on her, some shocked, others amused, a few clearly reaching for their phones. Perfect. Let them watch. Let them finally understand that Karen Middleton wasn't some suburban pushover who'd bend over backward to accommodate everyone else's inconvenience. "Karen, put the axe down." Jim Patterson appeared, his paper plate of barbecue still in hand, sauce dripping onto his polo shirt. "We can discuss this like adults." "Adults?" Karen laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "I've been trying to discuss this like an adult for 3 years, Jim. I've followed every proper channel, filed every form, attended every meeting. And what did it get me? More leaves. More mess. More of my time wasted cleaning up after this neighborhood's precious tree." She took a step toward the oak's massive trunk. The bark was thick, scarred with decades of neighborhood kids carving initials and tying rope swings. Karen raised the axe. "Stop." The voice belonged to 10-year-old Emma Patterson, Jim's daughter, the same girl who'd been climbing this tree since she could walk. "Please don't hurt our tree." Karen hesitated. The child's face was flushed with tears, her small hands pressed against the bark as if she could shield the entire oak with her body. Around the park, the picnic had gone completely silent. Even the toddlers had stopped their chattering. For a moment, Karen saw herself through their eyes, a middle-aged woman in a floral sundress, threatening a century-old tree with an antique axe while a child begged her to stop. The image should have mortified her. Instead, it crystallized something cold and determined in her chest. "Sometimes, Emma," Karen said quietly, "things we love have to go." She swung the axe. The blade bit deep into the bark with a solid thunk that echoed across the suddenly silent park. Wood chips scattered across the grass. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Karen pulled the axe free and raised it again. This time, no one tried to stop her.